Good morning. Hiking in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and in the Cataloochee area. And so I've got the big pack on today, doing an overnight. Gonna knock out a bunch of the trails in Cataloochee. And so I'm gonna be staying at campsite 39, Pretty Hollow. And so it's about 2 miles from the trailhead where I'll set my tent up, drop all my food and supplies off there, and then head up Pretty Hollow Gap on the first day. And then I'm gonna go east on Mount Sterling over to Long Bunk, go south on Long Bunk, then take Little Cataloochee Trail back over to the campsite. It's gonna be about 20 miles today, a little bit more than 20 miles on the first day. I'll spend the night at campsite 39, Pretty Hollow. And then tomorrow, get up in the morning, go back up Pretty Hollow, go west on Mount Sterling, down Balsam Mountain, and then grab Palmer Creek, head back over to the campsite, pick up all my stuff, and then head back to the truck. So 2 days of a lot of trails, about 20 miles on the first day, about probably 18 or so on the second day. It's gonna be a great day. So let me show you some of these trails. I'll go ahead and apologize. It's probably gonna be a longer video. Just trying to get 2 days worth of adventure into one video. So let's get on it. Let me show you these trails. Look at this beauty. Nice elk. Hopefully it's friendly and lets me pass by. So at the end of the day, I'll meet back up at this trail right here. I'll come right down here and head back to the campsite. So we'll see you several hours from now. Be right back here. Right before we get to the campsite, this is Palmer Creek. So tomorrow, at the end of my hike tomorrow, I'll come out here and head back to the campsite to get my stuff. So we'll see this trail tomorrow. So here is the trail marker. So first impressions, it does have a little bit of a slope down, but I know that there's some good spots. I know that up top is kind of a prime area. And then there's some spots over here on the right. So let's go find myself a campsite. So I'm on the upper end of the campsite and I think I found a pretty good spot right here. There's no dead trees above me. It's pretty flat for the most part. Fire ring over here. So I think this will be home for the night. Let me get set up, drop my stuff off, and get back on the trail. All right, tent is set up for the night. I'm gonna get back on the trail, and I'll be back in a few hours. So let's do it. I'm hiking up Pretty Hollow Gap Trail now after setting up my tent, and Pretty Hollow Gap is a pretty steep uphill if you go south to north. And so I'm going up Pretty Hollow Gap to Mount Sterling, and that's going to go up a little bit more, and then it'll be downhill after that. But I like to do the steep uphills first and then have a long glide path downhill back. So I'll be doing this today and tomorrow. So I'll be familiar with this trail, but pretty hollow gap. Approaching one of the blowdowns on pretty hollow gap. As you can see, you're not going up and you're not going down to get around it. So you're going over the top of it. And it's a big guy. Let's get across it. Approaching the next big blowdown on Pretty Hollow. And again, you might could go up around this one. Looks like some people have tried that. You're definitely not going down to get around it. Could go right over top of it. So let's get across it. You can tell this area of Pretty Hollow Gap Trail was hit pretty hard by the storm, the Hurricane Helene that came through. And I've had several large blowdowns, just mainly the trunks of the trees laying across the trail that you had to find a way over, through, around. But for the most part, the trail's been really nice. It looks like I have a water crossing coming up, so let's do it. So the trail follows along Pretty Hollow Creek, and all along the trail you get these views. It is absolutely wonderful. The creek is so pretty. Hiking up this trail, you encounter several of these. Now this one isn't so bad because you can just kind of walk around it, but there's been quite a few others that have not been so easy, where you had to climb up and over them or try to go around them or under them or something, but there's been several of them. So just be ready if you're hiking this trail. Steadily climbing on Pretty Hollow Gap. We're up around 4,300 foot, starting to get a lot more of the rhododendron and higher elevation plants. Should get up about 5,000 foot before long on Mount Sterling for sure, but it's been absolutely pretty. Okay, made it up Pretty Hollow Gap Trail, and that last couple miles is pretty good uphill. Nothing that's too bad, but it is a pretty good uphill there. So I'm at the Mount Sterling Ridge Trail and Pretty Hollow Trail intersection here. And so I'm gonna keep going that way. Tomorrow I'll come to this spot and go the opposite direction. And so I'm gonna be on Mount Sterling Ridge Trail, and I'll show you some of it. I'm gonna stop and take a little break here, eat a little snack and get some water, and we'll continue on down the trail. It's up around 5,300 foot of elevation now, and it is so interesting, the different ecosystems as you start climbing up in elevation and how the trail changes. So this is pretty high up. Trail's really rocky, moss everywhere, and it's steady wind blowing, and it's a little chilly. But this is the trail, Mount Sterling Ridge Trail. Check out that gnarly knot. That's crazy. It's on Mount Sterling Ridge Trail. And it's been kind of a gentle trail. A little bit up, a little bit down. A lot up at the beginning, but it's a really nice trail. Follows on the ridge. But man, that wind just whips right across this trail. After working up a sweat on Pretty Hollow, I'm getting a little chilly. It's all right, we'll head on the downhill before long. Made it up to about 5,700 feet of elevation, and now I'm starting to make my way back down. And so it's a beautiful trail up here. These upper elevation trails are kind of cool, some of my favorite. But let me show you some of the trail as I get down the trail. Made it to the Mount Sterling Ridge Trail and Mount Sterling Trail intersection. And I'm going to be taking Mount Sterling. If you go that way, you'll get to Baxter Creek Trail. But I'm going to be going down this way. So that, let me show it to you. That Mount Sterling Ridge Trail, it went up, 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 then down, 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 then up, up, up. So that'll give you a workout. Even though that wind was whipping through there and kind of cooling you off, that uphill kept you warm. So here we go, Mount Sterling Trail. It's been pretty foggy off the sides of the trail, so I haven't been able to get much of a view, but this view here is not too bad. Again, a little foggy, but really pretty. This trail has been downhill, a lot downhill, which I'm thankful for, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. Easy trail to hike. Some hiking down Mount Sterling Trail, and it's just been a steady downhill. Really nice trail, really pretty. I wish it wasn't so foggy that you could see some of the views, but just had something interesting happen. So, you know, I love dogs. I'm a dog lover. I've got two myself. And, you know, I kind of wish that you could hike with dogs out here, but there's a reason why they're not allowed out here. Just passed a guy that had a pit bull. And again, love pit bulls, nothing against pit bulls, but that dog was extremely aggressive to the point where the guy could barely hold him back whenever I passed by. Again, I passed far enough on the outside that there was no chance he was going to get me, but one little slip and that dog would have tore me up. So anyway, I don't know, maybe he doesn't realize that dogs aren't allowed here, or maybe he just doesn't care, but if you're going to have a dog out on a trail in a public park, then, you know, just make sure that they're well behaved. Anyway, not gonna let it ruin my day. It is absolutely beautiful out here. These woods are so pretty. As we start dropping in elevation and getting back into the woods, they're starting to get really pretty. Completely different ecosystem. So interesting. That's one of the great things about Smoky Mountains. We get to see so many different ecosystems all on one hike. Very neat. Made it to the Mount Sterling Trail and Long Bunk Trail intersection, and I'm going to be taking Long Bunk, but first I've got to go the 0.5 to Mount Sterling Gap and back to get all the trail miles. So I'll be back here in just a second. Made it down to the Mount Sterling parking lot. This is it, as you can tell. I'll turn around and go back to Long Bunk Trail. I was all downhill, so now I get to climb it back up. But there you go. And here's the sign. All right, let's head back the half mile uphill. And just like that, I'm back at the Long Bunk Trail. I'm gonna take that down to Little Cataloochee. And I think maybe I'll stop here for lunch, because it's about noon, so I'm gonna stop for lunch and continue on. I'm about halfway done with my hike, pretty close to it. So this would be a good place for lunch. So I'll see you down the trail. On to Long Bunk, Little Cataloochee Trail, 3.6 miles. Depending on the terrain, should make it there a little bit over an hour. So here's Long Bunk. Hiking on Long Bunk Trail, and obviously this isn't a very popular trail to hike. And several maintenance issues, but nothing you can't get around. It's just obvious that it's not a popular trail. And so an interesting fact about this trail, it used to be called the Pigpen Trail, because way back in the day, there used to be a pig pen at one end of it. That's long gone now, but interestingly enough, it used to be called the Pigpen Trail. Now it's the Long Bunk Trail. Interesting how they change their names over time. But so this is it. This is an example of some of the maintenance issues on this trail. I hope that they don't get worse than this. So far, this whole trail's been that way. It's pretty woods out here. It just slows you down having to crawl through all this stuff. All right, another really large blowdown. I think I'm gonna have to go down and around it. See if I can. Yikes. Whoa. Okay. There we go. Let's get back up to the trail. That's what we're dealing with, Long Bunk. So this little stream that Long Bunk follows around is called Dude Branch. And it crosses back and forth over this thing a half dozen times already. So, I mean, they're all rock hoppable, but it just keeps crossing back and forth over it. So just be ready for that too. You know, I hate to keep bringing up the same thing over and over again, but this is a giant blowdown, and you really can't go up and around it, and you really can't go down and around it. The only way to get across it is to go through the middle of it. So just wanted to make people aware, if they're going to do this trail, what to expect. So all of Long Bunk isn't just terrible. It is pretty out here in the woods once you get past all of the blow-down trees. And for the most part, a lot of the trail is completely fine, but there's a lot of it that's not too. On Long Bunk, this is the Hannah Cemetery. The Hannah's one of the original settlers in this area. And so this is their cemetery. Another little out and back I need to do. I have to go out to old North Carolina 284, so 1 mile out, 1 mile back, and then I'll jump on Little Cataloochee Trail. So let's do the 1 mile out and back, and I'll be right back. All right, made it the 1 mile out to the road, and I've got the 1 mile back, and it's going to be a rough one because that was a lot of downhill, and so I'm going to be hiking that all back uphill. So 5.1 miles back to Pretty Hollow Gap Trail, and that's going to be pretty much back to the campsite. So I've got probably about 5.5 miles left of the hike today, and so let's get on it. Let's finish it out, and let's get this done. All right, and just like that, I made it the 1 mile back, and it was a long uphill, but I got it done. And so now we're on Little Cataloochee Trail, and I believe there is a pretty good climb on this trail at some point. But there's going to be some pretty cool things to see on this trail, I believe. So if my research pans out. So anyway, let's get on this trail. Got about 4.5 miles back to the camp. So that's the Hannah cabin. As I mentioned earlier, the Hannahs were originators in this area. I'm not going to go up there because I don't want to do any more uphill, but pretty neat. I know that at one point that cabin was vandalized pretty bad and was rebuilt using a lot of the original materials, but so it is mostly original. And there's the Baptist church with the bell on the top. I think you can actually go in and ring the bell if you wanted to. It's pretty neat. Let's go up there and take a look. All right, just on the other side is the graveyard for the church. Let's go in, take a look at the church. There we go. Hiking along Little Cataloochee here, and Little Cataloochee was distinctly different community from back in the day, what they called Big Cataloochee. So Big Cataloochee was kind of incorporated first, and then later, about 30 years later, Little Cataloochee was. And so it's one of the last remaining settlements in Cataloochee Valley to be incorporated. So kind of a neat little history fact there. The trail's been nice, definitely it's been up and down, but easy to hike. As you can tell, it's a big wide open trail. So I'll show you a little bit more as I get further down. Well, another cabin. No sign to tell me whose it was, so I don't remember whose it was, but that's pretty cool to see. Let's continue on. Hike along the trail, and we come across this old stone stacked wall. How cool is that? Can you imagine how long it took them to build that? Still standing over 100 years later. Very neat. Made it to the downhill section now. I've been climbing for a long ways now, and so finally made it to the other side. And these woods are just gorgeous. Little Cataloochee Valley here. Trail's been really nice now that it's not trying to kill me with the uphill. Got probably 3 miles before I get back to camp, maybe a little bit less. Approaching the end of Little Cataloochee Trail. Man, I'm glad to be done with that trail. And so I've got probably about a half mile to get back to camp, even though this is technically the end of my hike. I do have about about half a mile to get back to the campsite. I'm gonna do my chores, camp chores, and fix something to eat and get in bed, relax a little bit. Man, what a day. Be over a 20-mile day, and I would say that's probably one of the harder loops. I'll do a closeout here once I'm back at campsite and set up. All right, day one's in the books. I'm back at camp here, getting ready to make some supper, relax a little bit, maybe take some ibuprofen after today, have a little beverage. But today was a great day hiking. And so I really just am blessed to be out here. And so about 21 miles today that I completed, and starting out on Pretty Hollow Gap. That's a lot of uphill right off the bat with some pretty big blowdowns to work your way through. Then once you got on Mount Sterling Ridge Trail, it went even more uphill. And then almost immediately on Mount Sterling Trail, though, it did start dropping pretty quick. Long Bunk, man, that trail needs some work. And so I know that this area has been just devastated with the hurricane. And so they've done a really good job of getting these trails hikeable, which is fantastic. But that trail still needs quite a bit of work. Little Cataloochee Divide Trail, that's a neat trail. It has, some old cabins on there, a church. It's a really pretty trail, but man, that trail tries to kill you. And so, I was happy to get done with that trail and get back here at campsite. And so I'm going to make some supper, have a little beverage, maybe make a little campfire, and get ready for tomorrow. Good morning, day 2 of the adventure. I am back on Pretty Hollow Gap. Gonna take that up, then over to Sterling Mountain, and then take Balsam Mountain down and Palmer Creek back over to the campsite, where I'll pick everything up and head back home. So last night, even though the weather said there was no chance of rain, it thunderstormed like crazy for several hours. And so the trail is very wet this morning. I'm gonna definitely be going pretty slow up this Pretty Hollow Gap trail, especially after 21 miles yesterday. So let's get on it. I'm not gonna film a whole lot on Pretty Hollow Gap since I did yesterday, so I'll probably see you up at Mount Sterling. So here we go, day 2. Hello, welcome back. And just like that, I'm at the top of Pretty Hollow Gap. Took me about an hour and a half. Had to go a little bit slow and take some breaks. Legs a little bit tired from yesterday, but so yesterday I took Mount Sterling Ridge Trail that direction. Today I'm taking it this direction. And so I'm gonna go up the trail behind me there and take that all the way to Balsam Mountain. So let me get on it. Let me show you some of this new trail. Let's do it. Pretty white-tailed deer. All right, let's keep going up the trail. See you later, buddy. On Mount Sterling Ridge Trail, and I have about 4 miles before I get to Balsam Mountain. And once you climb up and get on top of the ridge, it's really pretty up here. There's a little bit of climb right after you leave Pretty Hollow Gap, but once you get up here, it's really, really pretty. And nice and cool too. So, highly recommend this trail. I like it a lot. I couldn't pass by this landmark, this legendary landmark, without documenting it. So we were passing by Butt Mountain. That's right, Butt Mountain. And so right before Butt Mountain is some pretty good water sources. So if you need to get water, there you go. Get water off the Butt Mountain. Just keep going. So all along this trail, the Mount Sterling Ridge Trail, you have several of these little creeks that come down. Very pretty. They tend to make the trail quite muddy though, so just be ready for a little bit of mud. Made it to the intersection of the Balsam Mountain Trail and the Mount Sterling Ridge Trail. And I'm going to be taking Balsam Mountain to my right here. And I'm going to be on this trail for quite a bit, all the way down to the trailhead. And so I'll get on this trail, let me show you some of it. And it should be all downhill, hopefully. And this is the Laurel Gap shelter. Let's take a look around. Might stop here and eat lunch actually. I think that's a good idea. Let's do that. Let's eat lunch here. Besides one little section after the shelter there that was uphill, Balsam Mountain's been downhill and pretty much like this the entire time. Very pleasant trail to hike. It is littered with quite a bit of limbs. Nothing you can't get around by any means, but just annoying to have to keep stepping over them. But here's been the trail for the last couple miles at least. Made it to the Beach Gap Trail and Balsam Mountain intersection here. I'm going to keep going down Balsam Mountain for about 2.3 miles to the trailhead, where I'll have just a little bit of a road walk before my next trail. So let's get on it. Let's finish this up. And this is a good example of the limb litter I was talking about. This is all up and down the trail. On the lower end of Balsam Mountain, almost to the trailhead, well, maybe a mile from the trailhead, and the woods are beautiful out here. I'll tell you this, man, I pity the person that hikes this trail uphill, because it's a lot of uphill. I'm going downhill, and I'm thankful for that. But it's been a nice trail, good hiking. Finished up Balsam Mountain, thankfully. Man, that was a long downhill. And so I have full respect for anyone who starts here and goes up that trail, because that'd be a really hard, long climb. So I have just a little bit of a road walk to get to my final trail there on Palmer Creek. And so, see you later, Balsam Mountain. On to the next trail. Last trail of the day, Palmer Creek, 3.3 back to Pretty Hollow Gap, then probably another half mile to the campsite. Let's get on it. Let's get this hike finished. For the first mile or so on Palmer Creek, it has just been a steady downhill. And this has pretty much been how the trail's been. Not a whole lot to see on the actual trail. There are some decent views off the side of this trail. Can't really show them to you because there's a bunch of trees in the way, but when they clear out, you do get some decent views of the mountains. But this has been Palmer Creek. So a couple miles into the trail, you get your first glances of the creek there. Coming right along. We'll be down there to it before much longer. All right, now we have a water crossing here. We got to get across this as the trail continues on the other side. So let's figure out a way across. So we have one more water crossing here now, and my feet are already wet from the last one, so I'm just going to go right through the middle. So the lower end of Palmer Creek follows right along the creek here, and got my feet wet twice making those crossings. Got just less than a mile left to go, and this has pretty much been the whole trail right here. Just a gradual downhill, pretty easy trail, pretty cruisy. Approaching the end of Palmer Creek. And after the other water crossings, we have a bridge. Thank you. Don't mind if I do. Well, this is the technical end of my 2-day hike. I still have to go up to the campsite about a half mile, get my tent and stuff, turn around and go back about 2 miles back to the road. So let's get on that. Let's get it done. Today has just been a fantastic day, a tough day, but a fantastic day. So, I started out up there on Pretty Hollow Gap and climbed that all the way back up again. Took Mount Sterling Ridge, which climbed some more and then kind of flattened out a little bit before going a little bit downhill. And then once you got to Balsam Mountain, then it really kind of started taking a big downhill there. So, and now I'm on Palmer Creek, and it's been all downhill with some water crossings and all that. So it's been a good day. I'll do a complete video closeout here in a minute, but this is the end of day 2. So I'm ready to get back to the campsite, get my tent packed up, and head back to the truck. Okay, so I'm leaving campsite 39, Pretty Hollow Gap. And man, I'm all packed up. See that we got the big pack on, it's loaded down. We got about 2 miles back to the truck. And what a fantastic 2 days of hiking. I'm worn out, but man, it is absolutely beautiful out here in this area of the woods. And so can't recommend it enough to come out here. And so you can tell definitely that there's still some effects from the hurricane, but the crews have done an amazing job getting this area hikeable again, which is fantastic. And so just to round out this last 2 days, I mean, all of the trails were great except Long Bunk and a little bit of Balsam Mountain, but overall just a fantastic day. I'm going to leave some links up here in the corners. Watch some of my other videos if you don't mind. If this has helped you, like and subscribe. And get out and do some hiking. That's what this is all about. So, God bless. We'll see you on the next one.